So we had some stuff going on in the tech landscape. Not so much particularly smartphones, but around the rest of the tech world. Now we do have some smartphone news that I will go over. But yeah, today's show is going to be talking about tablets, what Google is looking to do with them and potentially why they're thinking about abandoning it, as well as talking about, where are we going to go now with this new technology we're approaching with Uber, where they're wanting to change the whole way we travel, how we get food, and will it be something that's going to work? So before we get started, let's go ahead and give you a brief intro of where you at, who I am, and what's going on. So this is the neXup podcast. I'm your host, PC747, and this podcast is centered around consumer tech, now mainly smartphone. This gets uploaded to SoundCloud, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and my website, neXup.com, every Friday. And what got me into this tech was, I was someone who was clueless to it. I struggled to figure out how to do the simplest of things. But over the years, I continued to learn more and play around, make mistakes. And as I got better and better, I wanted to help those who found themselves in a similar situation I was when I first got into smartphone tech. That evolved into me writing about it and, talking about it on a podcast. But I still have that same passion of making sure that the knowledge I learned from this, I make sure to share it in a way that even those who are new to the tech can feel like they can get on board, be a part of it, get something out of it, and learn from it. And that's pretty much my primary goal with the neXup. Now let's go ahead and get started with getting through the news real quick surrounding smartphones. And I'm going to start talking about the issues with the Galaxy Fold. Well, you already know about it. The Galaxy Fold was supposed to have released a month or two ago. And unfortunately, they ran into some issues with the display. Well, Samsung executives feel they may have solved the whole display issue and ready to go ahead and relaunch it. Now, they're expecting this thing to be launched in July. And for those not paying attention, this is a $2,000 device. Now, with all the issues surrounding it, I think you're going to see even less people willing to pick this thing up. But you're going to always have people who are curious to jump on board. Will Samsung indeed flesh out all the issues? Well, I think, unfortunately, the people that's going to find out are those who spent all that money for it. Personally, I still stand by what I said, where I am not paying that type of money for a device, especially a year one device. But I understand those who may want to jump on board. Just know there still are some issues that need to be ironed out and that you're not going to find out about until we start using it. Speaking of companies trying to get into this folding game, Huawei, they saw all the issues that Samsung was having with their fold, and they're going to put out a patent that addresses this, because they feel like we found a way to make it work. So with their Mate X, their folding phone, they think, we got it figured out and we're not going to have the same type of issue as the Galaxy Fold. But unfortunately for Huawei, they're still dealing with the issues surrounding the trade war and the executive order signed by President Trump. And as this company is embracing for up to a 60% drop in international shipments, they're going to have to continue to find a way to, replace Android, rebuild excitement around it, and see where they're going to go with this device. But unfortunately, with the Mate X, even though people can't wait to see if Huawei figured it out, the excitement has to have dropped because of the simple fact that you can potentially buy this device and not have a operating system that's worth enjoying, especially if it's not something that is a Google or Android, and you get some third-party OS that just is not well built, it's not as fleshed out, don't have the apps that you prefer to use. That's not going to work, especially with a device that will be around that same similar price range of $2,000. But we still have a couple of months to see if any of these get ironed out for Huawei in time for the Mate X release. Leaks Last week we had a big leak for the Pixel 4, brought to you by Price Barber and OnLeaks. Well, they're back again, and they leaked the Note 10. So renders of it shows pretty much on the back you have 3 vertical cameras with 3 LED lights beside it. It looks like you're gonna have more glass. I mean, in fact, when you look at the pictures, like 2 big pieces of glass sandwiched between a small metal frame that just like thin enough just to hold the buttons. And with Samsung and the Note line, they've really done a great job. Almost every year, you could say this phone has ranked at the top or was the top phone of the year. With the only year that you could say they didn't have that was when the Note 7 came out. And with the Note 7, they were projected to be the phone of the year with that one. So Samsung has done a great job as far as innovating. And they've come a long way from when they first launched the Galaxy Note, where they was in competition with Motorola, HTC, and LG. And you look now, over a decade of making a Note phone, and you look at their competition, where they at, compared to where Samsung is at. And there is a big gap between the two. I mean, Samsung continued to innovate and change the landscape of the smartphone, while these other companies like HTC, they're pretty much dead, gone, nowhere to be found. LG, they're still around, but no one's really excited about them. And Motorola pretty much moved from making flagships to concentrate more onto the cheaper phones, the budget phones. That is their area of focus. Now, you do have companies like OnePlus that are trying to make waves, and you got Google with the Pixel. But when it comes to the Android landscape, it's like Samsung and no one else. And and Samsung continues to dominate, and it's going to be interesting to see if the Note 10 end up continuing this tradition of dominating the smartphone industry. Now, I'm talking about being on the bleeding edge of tech. If you're someone who want to be on bleeding edge, you got $1,000 that you want to flush down the toilet, well, you could pick up an LG V50 ThinQ through Verizon. So, the Verizon 5G phone is ready and available for you to pick up and use on a 5G network. Unfortunately, with anything 5G, it's still new. There's not enough towers around yet, so you're not going to be able to enjoy or make use of it. And for something like the ThinQ, that is a $1,000 device for this 5G version, it's really not something I can personally recommend, especially when you look online and you see all the reviews that came out about it. It wasn't a well-reviewed phone. There weren't a lot of people excited about it or still hyped up about it. So for anyone to really jump on board this, it's just for the reason of you want to have 5G. And until you get more 5G towers, I don't think you're going to really be able to enjoy it to the fullest extent of what it's worth buying, and you still have to wait and see how 5G will pan out. Now, we know 5G is the future. We know 5G is going to eventually get to the point where, it's going to overtake LTE tower and become the primary mode of getting your data and your wireless signals. But until we get to that point and we get the technology where it needs to be, you have to kind of, wait before you can take full advantage of 5G phones. And I think that's not going to happen for another, I say 2 or 3 years. Now, have you ever had a song stuck in your head? You got this tune there. You can't quite figure out what this song was. You sitting there humming it along, and you eventually get the words to pop up in your head. So you start Googling some of the words to try to find this song. And eventually, search after search after search, you finally found it. You find it, you click on YouTube, and there it is, magic, that song, able to be enjoyed. Well, YouTube houses countless of songs and videos, especially those that are classic, like the ones that were stuck in your head that you were searching for. Universal Music Group will be partnering with YouTube to remaster over 1,000 classic music videos. So, for those who are fans of the oldies and the goodies, well, you're going to get a chance to enjoy that without all the fuzz, but in a crisp high definition. Apple could indeed kill the 5.8-inch iPhone. So I was reading this on Forbes, and this is something that really surprised me, but people are really liking iPhone XR, My parents actually picked one up, and they're enjoying it. But as far as the standard 5.8 version, it's not getting as many sales as Apple had hoped. And for me, I'm actually surprised. I think a lot of people were, because when you look at the XR and you look at the screen resolution, you're like, okay, Apple found a way to push this phone, for the price that they pushed it. And when you look at where they're competing against as far as overall screen resolution, it's really not on par with some of these mid-end phones. In fact, a lot of these mid-tier phones have better displays than the iPhone XR. But then that reminds a lot of us tech nerds that for the masses, they're not really caring about specs like that. They're not going to the store and saying, what phone has the best display, what has the most RAM. That's not what most people are doing. In fact, this goes to show you that if a company like Apple puts out a phone that looks the part, that's affordable, people are going to jump on board. And that's what really is going on with the iPhone XR. There are a lot of people picking it up because it's priced just right. And I don't want to take away from the fact that it do have a good camera. Google themselves kind of learned from that with the Pixel 3a and the 3a XL this year. You put out a phone that's, priced right, give it a good camera, people are going to jump on board. And there are people who actually prefer the 3a and 3a XL over the current Pixel 3. And we're also seeing the same thing with the iPhone XR, as people are preferring that over the iPhone 5.8 version. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see but Apple make some changes in the future and maybe look away from that. And maybe look to a cheaper phone and a more expensive phone. So we have to see if indeed Apple goes that route. Talk about something that surprised me. PC Mag named AT&T the fastest LTE carrier. Now, the reason why that surprised me, because I left AT&T because of the simple fact I was having a little bit of issues with their signals. There were some areas where I was not getting as fast as speeds, or I was having problems with, getting a clear connection where it should have been fixed. And, I've actually approached them like, look, you charge me money for a service that when I was comparing it to, at the time, Google Fi, it's like, Google Fi is doing much better than you guys. And I know Google Fi feeds off the T-Mobile network. So, look, either you're going to need to fix your towers or you need to come up off that price a little bit. And they weren't feeling it doing either. So I personally moved to T-Mobile and have enjoyed it since. The speeds have been faster than my AT&T, and I've really had any issues. Now, to be fair, I've had occasional hiccups where I've been on edge or no signal at all, but that's if I'm in like a really heavily reinforced building. And in a case like that, if I actually worked there on a daily basis and went there a lot of times, or this was a regular visit to go someplace with a reinforced building like that, then I would have to go to another carrier. But as it is where I'm at right now, that's not a problem for me. So yeah, I have not had pretty much any issues with T-Mobile. I'm saving money and I'm liking it. And again, with this report that AT&T have the fastest LTE, I'm kind of wondering where they got the metrics, where they tested that. But in certain areas, for a lot of us looking for which service to pick up, and I've noticed it over the years that you may go to one area and Verizon may perform better than AT&T, in another area T-Mobile may perform better. So, as a customer, I always kind of recommend that people buy an unlocked phone, something like a Google Pixel or something like that, where you own your phone and you can take it anywhere you want to go, and you kind of dictate which carrier you want to use versus allowing a carrier to dictate that to you. When you buy a phone like an iPhone or something like that, where it's locked down to the carrier, they kind of have an advantage over that, because they know that most people are not going to want to go through the headache of trying to sell their phone and buy a new one just to switch to another carrier. They're not feeling that. And when you put yourself in that situation, you may find yourself not able to really take full advantage of the freedom that you may have to really use competition to your advantage. And yes, Verizon, for many places, are a top carrier for a reason, because they do have the best signal overall. But most people are not feeling that price. They're not trying to spend that type of money for a cell phone carrier, especially now that even though Verizon is the best, they're no longer that much better than their competition anymore. It's not like Verizon, then there's a big gap, and then you got T-Mobile. T-Mobile is not the T-Mobile as they were back in the day, where, for me, I feared jumping on T-Mobile for a while because of the simple fact that, yeah, one of the criticisms I've always had with T-Mobile is along certain areas, their tower just wasn't strong enough, it wasn't good enough, and I wasn't willing to, give up at AT&T or Verizon for them because, yeah, I wasn't ready to be stuck on edge or inferior network. But T-Mobile have come a long way building up their towers and strengthening them up to the point where when you go to many of your major cities, the difference between where they're at and where Verizon at and where AT&T is at is minimal. So for a lot of people, they're looking to take advantage of who can give me the best deals, who can provide me the best service, and who's going to provide me the best discounts. And whoever can meet that end up being the place that people go to. And for a lot of people, like myself, I was stuck with AT&T for a while because I felt like, they were the middle ground. They were not quite as expensive as Verizon, but pretty much had close to the same amount of coverage and reliability versus something like a T-Mobile, where with T-Mobile, their reliability was something to question, because, yeah, they were a company that had to build their reputation back up. And Sprint, for me, was never in the picture anymore. I think Sprint's overall reliability and their reputation is tanked for a lot of people. And I don't know if they can ever recover. In fact, for them, I think the best thing that can happen to them is the merger with T-Mobile. And it is smart that if the merger do go through, that they continue taking on the T-Mobile name. Because, yeah, right now, T-Mobile is just a hotter company. And, yeah, as long as you're someone like me who try to keep an unlocked phone, you are able to kind of move along with the wave of where smartphone technology go. Because as you continue to go over the years, you continue to see how some carriers may do better than others and vice versa. And yeah, when the 5G craze gets going fully, and we start seeing maybe AT&T or Verizon really take advantage of it and in a way that it makes sense to be able to jump on board. Me having an unlocked phone, I'll be able to switch to them by picking up a SIM card. Unless someone like Verizon decides to play the game they always do, where they try to lock out certain phones to force you to buy their phones. And if that's the case, then for me, I probably won't go to Verizon. But Verizon actually in themselves have kind of relaxed on that stance and allowing phones to come onto the network, making it easier for people who want to switch from network to network to network to be able to do such a thing. Lastly, one of the topics I want to talk about, the big topic, it's Google kind of going away from tablets. Now, they themselves are not going to just abandon it, as they're going to allow, they still will provide the software for third-party companies to do it. But yeah, the Pixel Slate, you're not going to see a Pixel Slate 2. And, I'm not surprised that this whole Pixel thing failed. I looked at last year, when they came out with the Pixel Slate, and we were first rumored that it would be $1,000 device. And my biggest thing was, well, no Chrome device is worth $1,000. In fact, honestly, when it comes to Chrome devices, $500 is pretty much my max for that. And the reason because, well, Chrome software in itself is really not developed enough to justify the high prices they ask for. Now, don't get me wrong. I have 2 Chromebooks, a Chrome tablet, and a Chromecast. Now, when it comes to Chrome devices, I actually like it for what it is. As long as you're around, where you can always get to the cloud, you can go to the website, is actually beneficial. In fact, now since I picked up my HP Chromebook 2, it's my go-to device over my MacBook Pro. Unless I'm doing something like video editing or something with Photoshop, then the MacBook Pro gets broke out. But for everything else, I'm going to my HP Chromebook 2 because it's smooth. I like the keyboard, for doing some typing, for writing documents, for researching. I enjoy it for that. And my Chromebook Plus has pretty much been relegated to being kind of like a nightstand TV, where I use it for watching YouTube or movies, while falling asleep. And then my Chrome tablet is basically that, just a tablet. I use it mainly for reading my Bible, when at church or for just watching YouTube, anything that you use a tablet for. Now, where tablets, in especially Chrome devices, work best is a simple fact when they fit in that price range where it's worth the money. I wrote articles, criticizing Google tablets in the past because I've always felt that one of the things that kept them from really being as good as they could be have been the App Store. They just have not been able to figure out how to get apps to work well with tablets at all. Something that Apple have done a better job with, which is why, when it comes to tablets, if you want a full tablet that works, I have to send people to Apple because at the end of the day, yeah, if you was to put an Apple tablet like an iPad Pro next to any Chrome tablet or Android tablet, as far as what is more valuable and what is going to allow you to do your job better, for a lot of people, they're going to pick up that iPad. And the reason being because, with the App Store, it works. The apps work with the device, and they're able to take full advantage of what they have there, as well as how the tablet works. I mean, one of the biggest issues that I've had with Chromebooks and Chrome tablets that I've complained about a lot have been a simple fact that when it comes to using them, whether it be for video editing, and an example for this would be when I was using my Chromebook to edit. I did a video showing that you can use Power Director to do video editing on a Chromebook. Now, yes, it's good if you want small videos, but the problem is you're not able to plug in something like a hard drive and pull files to do some video editing with. And this is what really kills it. For whatever reason, Chromebooks don't seem to do a good job as far as with utilizing Google Apps in a way that it can read files, especially externally. And this is a problem, because one of the biggest things that I have as being the benefit of a Chrome tablet over an iPad is the simple fact that you can add in an SD card. But if you're not able to fully use the SD card, it defeats the purpose. And that is the problem with Chromebooks right now and Chrome tablets. It's the simple fact that, yeah, you can plug in an SD card, but if your apps can't read it, then does it really matter? And this is continue to be something that, plagues it, as well as Google Apps in general. How is it that Google Chrome and Android owned by the same company, and yet you can't get Google Apps to work well with Chrome? It's continued to be a problem. And this is why for a lot of people, at the end of the day, it's something where it is annoying. When I pick up my tablet or my Chromebook, I gravitate more to the Chrome apps or go online and just using the Chrome version of the software because it's just better, instead of going to the Android app version, of Google Play Music or Google Play Movies or any app. If I can go online and just go to the website, I prefer to do that because it looks better, it performs better, and it works better. And again, this is the problem when it comes to Google Apps with tablets. They just can't get it right. And this is partly why, with something like a Pixel Slate where Google was trying to charge upwards of $1,000 for this thing, people was not going to spend that kind of money for it. And honestly, you shouldn't. This device was not on the same par as something like a MacBook Pro. So why should you spend MacBook Pro like money for it? And this is where I feel like Google kind of played themselves with the price here. They were trying to be Apple. They saw that Apple put out their own hardware and put their name on it and can ask that type of money. They felt like they could. And the reality is they couldn't. Because at the end of the day, you can't put out half hardware and software, half effort hardware and half effort software and expect to get that type of money for it or expect people to spend that type of money for it. Because at the end of the day, people are not stupid. They can see reviews. They can see the buzz surrounding the device. And if a lot of people are pretty much saying that this thing is garbage, people want to stay away from it. And that was the feel for a lot of people with the Pixel Slate. That at the end of the day, the device was garbage. It wasn't worth the money. And stay away from it. And people did. And I think Google kind of, felt like, man, that kind of hurt, and instead of wanting to take more time to see it, to find a way to fix it, they just bowed out. Now, it could be there's a reason for it. Maybe they looked into it and said, look, we've been doing this whole Chrome and Google Apps thing for years now, and we can't figure it out. And this is really, kicking our tail. And, you know, we're spending way too much money on this. It's time for us to go ahead and cut our losses. And that very well could be what's going down. Now, I don't think that Google should abandon the whole tablet game in general. Now, they're not giving up on, as they say, the laptop version. They're going to continue on with Pixelbooks, you know, and which, again, to me, as nice as the Pixelbooks are, you know, that's something I still was going to buy either, because that's still one of them things where I just don't understand spending that type of money for, again, a Chrome device until Google can fix the software. And that's my problem. Obviously, Google don't feel confident enough in the software that, or they can get it fixed enough to ask that kind of money for it. Because if they did, I don't think they would be abandoning this. The reality is that when it comes to their software, they understand, I guess, that when it comes to making a tablet software, they're not going to be able to figure it out. At least they're done trying to figure it out. And for a lot of people, yeah, it's wild that at the end of the day, when it comes to tablets, you may want to look somewhere else. Now, me in particular, I actually had to make that choice. You know, decide, all right, should I pick up an iPad Pro or should I pick up a Chrome or another Chrome tablet? And honestly, I chose another Chrome tablet, and this is why. As much as I say that when it comes to a tablet, Apple tablets are the better tablets, at the end of the day, for a lot of what, at least what I'm looking to use my device for, I'm not wanting really tablet-like software, if I want to be honest. I'm not looking for something to do a lot of offline work where I'm using tablet apps, if that makes sense. I'm wanting to be able to utilize going to the actual website and just utilize it from there, you know, and for me, that works great, and why I gravitated more to a Chromebook. And honestly, it came down to price too. You know, when it comes, you know, what you get for what you spend, or yeah, the bang for the buck, at the end of the day, especially when priced right, Chromebooks it's worth it if you pick it up at the right price. Now, example of that, like when the HP Chromebook 2 came out a year ago and it was around $600-700, I wasn't feeling it. I felt, again, too much money. But once I was able to pick it up for $350, jumped on board, still love it, you know. And for me, I think that's where Chrome devices need to be. That sub $400 device, because I think Chromebooks is something that you need to use it with something else. It's not ready to be a standalone device. And since it's not ready to be a standalone device, it don't need to be asking for standalone device money. You know, people barely, as it is, can justify spending $1,000 for a MacBook. Well, but a lot of people, you know, they would jump on board because, well, Apple's proven. And you know, when it comes to something like a MacBook, at least some of the newer Mac are proven to be worth the price, you know, minus some of the issues they have in that butterfly keyboard. But yeah, we know with Apple, they have a reputation, and for something like that, and even some of the newer PCs, you're getting what you're paying for, because you can use something like a Final Cut Pro, you can use programs, you can use the software that you need for work and getting stuff done. And you can't quite do that with Chromebooks, not until more companies decide to put their information on the cloud. And the problem with comes to cloud servers and stuff like that is that, yes, it's great as long as you stay connected, but the moment you are not connected, that's when it becomes a problem. And are companies willing to not have some type of backup system to go on, especially when money is relying on making sure that you can stay functioning, you can stay going? Yes, getting disconnected from the server is, you know, less likely now, because you always have this backup server and a backup to that. But you still have those problems. And for a lot of people, they still want something hard. They still want something that's on a file or on a drive, or something they can access it where it's their own server, there's something they can control. And when it comes to that is why a lot of people, yes, you know, especially some of the smaller businesses, you know, they can't quite always rely on a server, you know, or if you're making wedding videos for people, or you're doing some editing, you know, you're not trying to do everything through the cloud. And you especially if you captured a lot of stuff on, you know, a drone or a camera, you know, you just want to put that on a file or hard drive and have access to that for later to be able to edit it, continue to do what you need to do with it. And you're limited to that if you always having to rely on a cloud. This is where Chromebooks are a problem for a lot of people, is to not be able to use the peripherals that you have to do what you need to do with it. Now, if you're someone who are not needing a hard drive, or not needing that. If you're just surfing the web, you're doing some editing on a document, like a Word document where you can use Google Docs, you're just doing stuff like that. Chromebooks are awesome for that, especially if you're at the house or you're somewhere, you get a Wi-Fi connection. It's great. And for the price, again, as long as you have that supplementing something like a MacBook or somewhere, if you need the power, if you need something like that, you have it. It's great. And yeah, for me in particular, because I do have my MacBook Pro as my primary device for something like video editing, for photo editing, or if I need to just put some files on the computer and work from that, I can do that. But for everything else, like watching YouTube videos, Netflix, like I said, doing Word documents, stuff like that, I'm able to do that on a Chromebook. Yeah, something like a $400 Chromebook is awesome, especially when you look at how well Chromebooks do work when it comes software-wise. With my MacBook Pro, the reason why I do choose my Chromebook over my MacBook Pro, because, well, for one, I do have an older MacBook Pro, and the good thing about Apple, it was part of their reputation, they do have lasers that do last a long time, but, at times I do see its age, especially when, it goes from when I'm waking it up from sleep and trying to get it to kind of wake up and get connected back to Wi-Fi and get going. Sometimes it can take almost up to 30 seconds to a minute before I can really jump online and be able to do what I want to do. Where with a Chromebook, as soon as I'm opening it, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go online, go into Chrome and surf the net, go to Twitter, do what I need to do. And for something like that, that's why for me, a Chromebook just works. The software is light, so I ain't got to worry about, hearing a fan as, I load up multiple web pages and hearing, like I said, a fan in the background. It just works, and for using that, a lot of people may find that working well for what they use it for. And that's why I'm not surprised that we're seeing a lot of classroom adopt Chromebooks. It's cheaper, it does what it needs to do, and you're able to get a lot done. And that's for me why I don't think when it comes to tablets that it's a dead end, because this can be fixed. Like I said, again, it comes down to if Google wanted to fix it, but it can be fixed. The way it needs to be fixed, though, I think Google needs to kind of open it up a little bit more. I know that when it comes to Android devices, especially as Android nerds, we don't want any more fragmentation. We like the fact that Google kind of, took the reins on Chrome devices and Google Watches, saying that, no, you're not going to be able to change it to facilitate you. We're not going to allow you to put like a TouchWiz on it or some other type of skin on it and change it up to where it's sort of different from Android and it's not getting the same type of updates that we wanted to get to. And yes, I kind of want them to kind of continue somewhat to their strengths, but I want them to kind of back off just a little bit to allow some of these other manufacturers to be able to think outside the box. Because imagine you had a Chrome tablet, right? And you did have a lighter version of TouchWiz, not to the point where it was, well, cartoonish or, just not performing and getting updates like a Chrome device should. But when it goes to the tablet mode, you do have more of the tablet-like features that makes the tablet worth enjoying. You have the apps that kind of perform better, that look better, and did the things it needed to do in tablet mode, as well as still have your Chrome devices. That may be something that for a lot of people that may work for them, but at the end of the day, I think, when it comes to Google, they've for themselves abandoned the tablet, and they're looking toward these folding phones as the future. As for everyone else, yeah, I think with something like the Pixel Slate, if the price was able to drop like 50%, it'd be a steal, especially some of the higher end ones. You were able to pick one up for a great deal. I think people would jump on board and like it. Now, like I said, me personally, I love enjoy my Chrome tablets. It's something I would recommend. But I will also make sure the person I'm recommending to understand what they're getting out of Chrome OS and seeing what they're expecting to get out of the device. If they're looking for something more tablet-based or they want to do a lot more stuff offline, especially like on an airplane where they're not going to have access to the internet and they still want to do some video editing, they still want to do some stuff where they would like to utilize apps, I'm not going to recommend Chrome. I will have to send them to something like an iPad Pro because they would be able to get a lot more work done. But if they're looking for something that is, again, more Chrome-based and they understand what they're getting, this is something that's worth jumping on board. So for my last topic, I want to talk about Uber and seeing the shift that we're seeing as far as technology. Now, what got me kind of jumping on board to this originally was I read this article, and the article was talking about Uber will eventually start using drone delivery, kind of testing it for a couple of residents in San Diego. And they're supposed to try that this year, using Uber to deliver, or Uber Elevate, as they're calling it, to, fulfill some orders. And that got me started digging into Uber Elevate. I started watching the press conference they had about it, and looking at where Uber is trying to go. And they're wanting to go to transportation as far as beyond just driving people somewhere. They want to fly people. They want to have an air system where they're flying people from city to city to city. Competing with obviously the airlines. And, looking at where they're trying to go with it, going with a full electric airplane. And as I was watching the video, and, I was actually impressed at the press conference. They brought up some really good information and good points and good thinking pieces about where we need to go with technology and why we're not where we're able to get to when it comes to drone deliveries, and especially when you want to use it for flying people around. And coming from an aviation background, I can speak to this myself in saying that, well, first of all, when it comes to going to all electric, it's getting the public on board and feel comfortable with that. Because who right now is going to really feel comfortable with having nothing but electricity running it? Because, well, at the end of the day, we want a backup system. We always want a backup system. The reason why, well, especially with an airplane, the saying goes, you can't always pull over on a cloud. You got to have some way that in the event something happens, you have a backup plan. And you see that built in modern day airplanes where there's a backup to the backup to the backup. They always have a backup system in the event it fails. And that is regulatory. It is mandated. If you put out a new aircraft, you're supposed to have a backup to that. And it's supposed to make air travel safe. And we look to that, and for years, for over centuries now, we understand combustion. We understand the simple fact that you provide a fuel source, you provide the air, and you light a fire. As long as the fire is running, you keep air going, you keep fuel going, it will continue to go. And that will continue to run. And we trust that. And we know that it's worked. It's been proven for centuries now. The combustion system works. We want to go to something away from that. We want to say, okay, we understand combustion works, but let's go to electricity. Well, the problem with an all-electric system that people have is just that. In the event that it stops working, what is your backup? What is the plan here? How would you recover it? And then this other thing is, and they even brought this out in a press conference, is the charging it. And we're seeing this now with electric vehicles. As much as some of these Tesla devices are an awesome idea for driving around, and especially in a city, smart idea, but for long distance, is it really worth it? When you think about it, if I brought this up with someone as we had a debate about this, and yes, I understand that you don't have to stop by the pump all the time. And for city driving, that makes sense. If you're driving back and forth to work, in a city, that's great, because at the end of the night, you can plug it in, charge it up for the day, get up, drive to work, drive home. Perfect what you need to do. But for long distance, where you're driving across the city, and now you got to stop and charge it up. Well, we're seeing that when you go to some of these electric ports, it's taking up to an hour, from an hour up to maybe 3 hours to charge these things up to where it can get back on the road. Compared to maybe 5-10 minutes at a gas station pumping gas. So for a lot of people, when it comes to long distance traveling, well, it makes sense. Why would I want an electric vehicle over the combustion vehicle? And then also you got to look at the maintenance overall. Yeah, with a combustion engine, you have to deal with the things that come along with that. That is not the case with electric. But then when you look at some of these hybrid vehicles, something that, we started doing some research on, not everyone is buying a vehicle for like 5 years, then once the 5 year or the warranty die, they trade it in for another one. There are some people that are looking to buy a vehicle and keep it, and maintain it. And that's what the biggest issue comes is with maintaining it. As you start to see the cost of some of the batteries for these electric vehicles, it's just amazing. You look like $1,000 plus just for a battery And that's just for the device. That's not including installing it. So, as you look at the long-term aspects of maintaining and keeping the device running, it makes you ask the question, is it really beneficial over the latter? And for a lot of people, no. And this is some of the questions that has to be answered when you look to go to a new solution of a flying vehicle that relies on nothing but electricity. How will it be worth it for people to jump on board, and is the cost going to be worth it? You try to say, well, it's better for the environment, and because you don't have as many, pollutants going out there, you don't have as, like with trucks and cars and stuff like that. Well, you still using combustion to supply the electricity to charge the device. So it's not like you just going no combustion whatsoever. Now, I'm not saying to not look at electric vehicles. I actually do think this idea of hybrids are a good idea. But the same issue that is keeping smartphone technology from really advancing is the same thing that's kind of holding this back. And they brought that up at that conference as well. And it's battery technology. We have to get the battery technology figured out, and we have to get it right. And the reason for that is for the simple fact of this. Until we get a battery that's able to last the period that we want it to and still be safe, we're not going to be able to advance where we wanted to advance. I mean, we saw the backlash of the Note 7. I just talked about how the Note 7 could have been the best phone of the year at this time, but because of, battery issues, it brought up the issue that we knew we had with lithium ion, and that is with lithium ion right now, it's a safety factor. And we know it's the case because of the fact that now airlines have changed their regulations to dealing with lithium ion batteries or lithium ion devices. They know that, now that there's a chance for this thing to, to explode or catch fire. And this is a safety issue. And and this is with a phone. So imagine something with an airplane or a car where you're using a larger battery source that's being recharged and recharged and recharged. How is that going to continue to be a safety? How is that going to be with safety? It's already a challenge as it is to get an aircraft flying, and keeping it up there, relying on what you have. But the thing is, when you have to worry about, will this battery explode when someone's in flight? What will happen there? And there's a lot of people who are like, okay, look, we're all for seeing technology continue to get pushed. And if you're not wanting to be, or if you don't have a vision, you can't move forward. And we need people to be visionaries. We got to continue to push technology forward to continue to grow and continue to evolve. It takes someone who's not afraid to fail, to take a stab at it, to open up the realms of where we can go and the ideas of how far we can go with technology in general. I don't think we would be where we're at if it wasn't for people taking shots and even failing, and we're learning from it. So personally, I'm all for Uber continuing on with it. I hope they have success for it. And yeah, I think it will be something. As far as the using it for delivering food and delivering package, I'm definitely looking into that, as far as what it can do and how it could open the doors up to, at the end of the day, businesses. I was actually looking at a video on Uber Eats, and I saw several on it, and people talking about just in general two sides of this. You have some people who said, man, look, at the end of the day, I'm not making the money, it's not worth it. Uber is making a killer, and for me as a person trying to make some money, I don't feel like I'm making the most I can. And I've seen other videos where they've said, look, you can make money on this, but you got to plan, you got to think about it, because you got to choose which routes is worth it for you. Add to that, I saw a video on Amazon where now Amazon is relying more on third-party people to deliver your packages. I saw a video where now, let's say, if you want to, make some money, you can go ahead and jump on an app and be someone who, you drop off some of their Amazon orders to kind of help them fulfill these one-day delivery services. And you get a chance to hear kind of some of the testimonies of, some of the challenges that come along with that, such as, the time constraint, the weather, and all the things that's going with that. Now, as far as where we at now, I think in where we going and some of the opportunities that are there, I think now more than ever, you as a person can start your own business and get something going. Especially if, we look at in the past where we're saying that, let's say if you're someone who made a bad decision in life, you get incarcerated, and you get out of prison, you now can't get a job no matter what, because no one's going to give you a chance. Or you come from an area where, you feel like no one's going to ever give you a shot because, you don't look like them, you don't fit in. Well, if you own a car, you can basically start a business of your own, and make money delivering food, delivering packages, and have your own literally delivery service. And it opens the door for small business to really grow and thrive. And as far as competition, because with something like this, those that are willing to hustle, those willing to work hard, willing to put in the work, can make something out of it. Now, are they going to get rich off of it? I think it's all going to be based on where you're delivering, what you're doing with it. But, it gives you an opportunity. And I also understand the other side of it too. A lot of people saying, look, these companies are making money because of the simple fact that instead of employing people and having to pay for health insurance and having to actually pay real wages, they're relying on contract service basically. We're contracting this out and we're opening it up for you to provide your own health care. You provide your own vehicle, and as long as you can fulfill this, it works great, and it opens the door for everybody, and when it comes to competition, let's just say, you're someone who is really trying to dominate this. You really want to be successful with it. So you decide to buy a couple of vehicles or invest money in a couple of vehicles. You hire a couple of employees, and you actually fulfill all these orders, not just Uber Eats, but you're picking people up and dropping them off, and you picking up packages and dropping off packages. You picking up food and dropping off food. You're taking full advantage of the opportunity, and you're able to grow this into a business that is viable and able to feed your family. And when you open this up to the drone industry, imagine the drone pilots that can get some work. I think companies like Amazon and Uber, they understand that, well, if we were to employ drone pilots ourselves, well, we're going to have to pay the wages, obviously, healthcare and all that stuff. But there are a lot of companies or people out there who have their own drone business and just looking for work. And if you can open this up where, all right, if you're a licensed drone pilot, you are able to fulfill these orders safely. You know what I'm saying? You are regulated by the government because you have a federal license that says you're allowed to deliver commercially. Well, look what that can open, look at the opportunities it can open for just people in general and where it can push it, right? And for everyone in general, we'll actually finally have what we've been looking for, a way to utilize getting packages from one place to another sooner. Now, when it comes to the technology, many times I've said before that, as far as the rush to get someone's package to them, quick because, they want it now. At the end of the day, I don't see that as something that is a need. But at the same time, I'm not going to stop the competition, or I'm not going to stop, innovation from happening. If a company feel like we can make some money, extra money, because this guy here is willing to pay an extra 30 or 40 bucks to get their package in an hour versus a day or two, and they can do it safely, why not? And plus it does definitely open this up for other means, because you do have people who may be elderly, like I said, I've said before in the past when it comes to this, who may be stuck in house for whatever reason, whether it be because of health, whatever, and they need their medicine, they need food, and they can't always get out like they used to. And you can utilize drones to get that to them. That is something that makes it worth it. And as we continue to see where we are continue to evolve when it comes to packages and fulfilling orders and stuff, it does open the door to where we can go. And yeah, personally, I'm excited to see how this continues to evolve and how well it do. And yeah, I think this is something that is worth jumping into. So before I close out, something I wanted to do or start doing is in past podcasts, if someone leave a comment below, I want to make sure I answer that question. So this was actually a post made by Drone Wolf Media, and it was his response to Stadia gaming platform. And pretty much his thought process was the simple fact, well, yeah, I'm gonna read his post. He says pretty much, I'm not sure about the new Stadia gaming platform. Streaming 4K over 60 consistently is going to be difficult for most folks. Personally, I feel they should have opted for a standalone gaming platform with the ability to stream as an option. Not to mention the whole data issue. How many people these days have unlimited data, whether cellular or otherwise? I just think they're limiting themselves by making this a gaming only game or a streaming only game system. Guess what we'll see. Or guess we'll see. So my answer to that, in a way, I see where you're coming from on that, but here's my response to that. Yeah, you're right. You know, for someone who may not have unlimited data, this can become a problem. Like I said, especially streaming 4K over 60 consistently. So here is what I'm looking at with this technology. We've kind of seen this done already. When you say have a gaming platform where streaming is an option. It's already done. You got Xbox that's doing it. You got PlayStation that's doing it. You got Nintendo that's doing it. So for Google to pretty much have their own gaming box, they had to do something much better than everybody else is doing. They had to get the hardware either it had to be cheaper, it still perform as good, or you're going to have to just dominate everybody in the hardware department and find a way to price it in the way that people are going to buy it. Because at the end of the day, you can throw all the hardware you want at it, but people are cheap. You know, it's the same reason why, again, people are not jumping on some of these the top end smartphone. Not a lot of people want to spend $1,200 for a smartphone, and this has come to the whole case with the platform thing. So I see that Google is trying to think outside the box. What is the way that we can bring gaming to you that's different from what everybody else is doing? Maybe we can try doing streaming. We own a lot of servers, and we think we can take advantage of it, and we can do something differently. And honestly, I'm interested in it for this, you know, because of the simple fact that, yes, you're right. You know, when it comes to that, you do have to look at data, but I think now people are well aware of their data constraints, and not everybody's going to probably be caring to try to game at 4K, you know. When I pick one up, I'm okay with it just working at 1080p, you know, and actually after the 3 months, unless the 4K is that much better, I probably am going to look at going to the free version and dropping it down to 1080p, because for a lot of people, 1080p is awesome. But as far as using it as a gaming platform, I think it really going to depend on the person. If you're a hardcore gamer and you're looking, you know, to game out, you know, I think this may not be something for you, because if you game like hours and hours and hours on end, you're right, this is going to be expensive. You're going to probably bust your data caps, and for you, it'd probably be better off going to a system-based or box-based system. But for people who are casual gamers, you're not quite wanting to spend the money on a box. You're not wanting to spend the money on waiting, or you don't want to spend the time waiting for your software to load up. You know, this is them, and actually, this is for me. You know, I talk about how one of the things that I didn't like about the PlayStation 4 is when I first picked one up is, again, I spend the money for it. I'm ready to get home and play it. I got to spend an hour waiting for the software to update, and then I got to download all the games and wait for this to update, and then I can play. And I'm like, okay, by that point, I kind of spent 2 or 3 hours waiting for, you know, everything to update and download, and I'm still pulling data from the internet. Why can't I just jump on and play? And I think this have the opportunity to be awesome where for people like me who want to pick up a controller, play a game for maybe 20, 30 minutes here and there, put it down and keep moving, this may work. You know, but yeah, you make a good point there. I can see where you're coming from. And I'm actually curious for other people out there, you know, as we kind of see this whole, still talking about the Stadia thing, do you think this can work, or do you think, this may be something that may be a problem for a lot of people, especially when it comes to the data front, you know, or if you don't have unlimited data, will this become a problem for people? And, you know, I think the biggest problem for Stadia, honestly, is if they can actually live up to what they're saying. You know, because I've been seeing some YouTube videos that people are saying that, you know, Google's promising a lot, and so far they're not able to live up to it. You know, it's not as smooth as they're trying to make it seem. You know, it's buggy, it got issues, and there's some latency issues, and really at the end of the day, people may be disappointed. So I think it's going to come down to execution. If they can't execute, it don't matter about whether it's a box or streaming. People are not going to pick it up. But if they end up executing and actually able to live up to what they're saying they're able to do and able to get it to work, I think you'll have a niche of people who are going to jump on board because, again, how cheap it will cost to pick one of these up. I think the cost that I would save on picking up a box, especially if I'm not a hardcore gamer, I spend $60 for a controller. I'm on a free version. I only pay for the games. $200 I would have spent on a box. I could save and maybe invest in the more bandwidth, something like that. But yeah, we got to see how this goes. Anyway, this is another neXup podcast. I'm your host, PC747. Thank you for joining me. And I'm curious about your thoughts. Yeah, continue to leave your comments below and have a good weekend. I'm out.